I got a chance to meet Eric a little closer as well, so that was nice.
He's rad. That guy. He's obviously, for me, he's a mentor and a hero, and just an amazing person altogether. So
he is, and it's great. He's fantastic. He's with the kids and stuff like that, working with the juniors, and then with the little kids on the 50 cc's.
Yeah, from the 50s to the 85s to the 250s to the 500s.
Perfect. He's the right guy in the right place for that.
You know what, Wilbur's? I don't know how much social media you're on, but my kid Wilbur, he's down at Eric's place right now.
Okay.
He went there last Friday, almost a week ago, and he went to the Danish under-21 final. Then he went to the Danish senior final on the Sunday. They did practice on 250s. He's been practicing 2 or 3 times on the 250 now, one time on the 85s, and they got one more, I think, this week before they go to the Danish 85cc championship on Sunday, and then he comes home Monday. So he's like living the dream, man.
Yes, that's the coolest thing for the kids. I mean, that's just awesome.
It's super cool. I mean, like you said too, you get a guy like Eric he's so open, a guy who's got as much success as he had in the sport, and the Danes were always, so focused and so different and ahead of the rest for so many years.
That's it.
It's just cool. It's really cool.
It is.
So just to make clear for everybody, it's Eric Anderson you're talking about.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So we're live right now with Tomasz Gazinski. We want to welcome you to the Real 45 podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to talk with you guys and talk shop.
Pretty much that's it too, right?
That's it.
We're more honored actually because when I talked to you about this a week or two ago, we kind of dropped it in just as hey, how about joining us on the podcast? I thought, you know what, like Thomas is the guy that everybody knows who you are, but I don't know how much people really know about you and your life, your background, and obviously we know you as being involved with Tomasz Gollob as his manager for so many years in the sport. But who is Tomasz Gazinski? That's kind of, for me, I know you pretty well from the sports side of it,
Sure.
You've got an accent very similar to mine.
That's it. Well, I don't know how many people know about it, but I was born and raised in America, and I've been living out here for almost 30 years now. I've worked out of the 30 years with Tomasz. I worked for 25 years. So you and I obviously go back a long ways. So that's where the accent comes from, and the whole, I guess, background part of it. And I'm based in Bydgoszcz, which isn't a surprise. It's good because it's Tomas's hometown as well. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we go back a long time. I remember the first time we had I was thinking about this before we went on. The first time we came like really close into contact, I think it would be 94. It was, I don't know if you remember this, the one-off final in Voyens.
Yeah.
You were fourth. You missed it by a point. You missed the run-off by a point.
Yeah.
And the next day, Polonia Bydgoszcz, the club that Tomasz represented, had a race-off for being relegated against Leszno, and that's the club you represented.
I do remember this.
And if everybody remembers 94, that was a time where Tomasz was knocked out in the world final, completely unconscious. He was transported back to Bydgoszcz. He was a young kid back then, and it's a situation, it's a do or die for the club. And we had to literally put him on the bike. He couldn't get on the bike himself. He did his 3 races. He won all 3 of them. And I mean, I don't know how far we should go into this, but I guess it's history past. But he couldn't remember half the races. He'd come off, and I literally asked him, "Did I win? Or was I second? Or yeah, you won." It's okay. We sat him down, got him back on the bike, did another race and a third race, and then after, when we knew points wise okay, that's it. We took him back home. He went to the hospital and everything like that.
Oh shit!
So I don't remember which races, if you were in with him or not, but if you lost the race, someone had to lose the race against him, but whoever he was losing against, it was with an unconscious Tomasz.
Oh man!
But in all fairness, I guess it was on a track he could race with his eyes closed.
This isn't football.
No, this is not football. Exactly. There's the living proof of it right there, right?
That's it. Exactly.
Exactly. What about that is like you said, his memory and all that stuff wasn't there, but you can't take the racing out of the spine. He just went out there, dropped the clutch, and went around and just said, "What?" That's it.
He was on autopilot, I guess.
Was he cool about it?
Later on, when we told him about it, he didn't know, because literally he didn't know where he was. He didn't know if he'd come off the race, take his helmet off, and he was asking us, "Did I win the race?"
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's scary now when you think about it, but you did what you had to do back then. It was maybe different times, and then it is what it is. But
I think to some extent, some of that's still somewhat kind of on the border today, right? It's it's how quick or how good you are at hiding it.
Exactly. Now it's 20, almost 25 years past. I guess we could talk about it.
How did it make you feel, as you had to take that decision? I think.
In all fairness, those were my beginnings, so I wasn't really making the decisions. It was I was coming up through the ranks, let's say, but his dad was still running the show back then, okay. And it was more his dad's call.
Right.
All right.
We've had many situations coming along the way where I already had the call. In all fairness, I would have pulled out. It is what it is. We'd either lose or we wouldn't lose, but I wouldn't have risked the riders' health, because that's now maybe looking at it as from a different standpoint, and being an older guy now, I would have always taken the aspect of the health of the rider instead of the relegation of the club. You can go up, you can go down, but then again, back then it was a little more of history, because that was the only club in Poland that was never relegated down to first division.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. See, those
all the other clubs have gone up and down. Polonia in that time was the only club that didn't. They went down the first time, I think, in 2008.
No kidding.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a cool stat.
That's it. So that was one of the reasons also, and I think it's a little different when a rider is representing his own club. It's a little more closer to his heart, and he gives it that much more, a little more effort, and that's why I guess Tomek being from Bydgoszcz, riding for Bydgoszcz, never being relegated, he put in the effort, went on autopilot, and did what he had to do to save the club. But
man, to look back, like you just said there too, like maybe it's a different time frame or whatever. Now you're married with kids, and obviously Thomas has got kids too, and everything has changed so much over the years. However, there's still so much history. And one more thing is, you talk about Thomas on autopilot. Whenever he rides around Bydgoszcz, it's like he's on autopilot.
That's true.
And you just, the worst place to be on that. I think Bydgoszcz is one of the greatest tracks ever in Speedway, because it's just full of opportunity.
Yeah.
And you have to be on your game. The worst place to be on that track is in the front. Unless you're Tomasz Gollob.
Because everyone's gunning for you, and everyone can ride any line on that track. Inside, outside, you don't know what line to you're gonna shut the inside, you're gonna ride it wide, you don't know what to do.
Right. If you go on YouTube and just punch in Bydgoszcz, Polonia Bydgoszcz, or whatever it is, you're gonna see some crazy events. I mean, we've had some great Grand Prix events, we've had some great league events, but
sure.
Being in front of Tomasz Gollob at Bydgoszcz, I've been in front of him and behind him 2 or 3 times at least in one heat. And when you get to the finish line, it's almost like NASCAR or getting in the draft. You got to make sure you hit the draft at the right time so you get the slingshot.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about the track in Bydgoszcz. The one I remember the most, with you involved, was the semifinal of the World Cup in I think 2012. Yeah. It was you, Emil, and Tomek, and I think a Danish rider. I think it was Hans. I think it was. But Hans wasn't really in the mix. But it was the 3 you guys in 4 laps. Everyone was leading. Everyone was third at least 3 times.
I was last at one point too.
You were last, and you came up to the first again. Back down third. Tomek goes up and down. And if you watch it through the Sky Sports commentator, you can hear Kelvin Tatum just going absolutely berserk.
Yeah.
He does the fantastic commentating of that. And you won that heat, and everyone was surprised because America didn't make the qualifiers. It was between Russia and Poland points-wise, but everyone was surprised why is Greg so happy. And I obviously knew, because you won a heat there, which was an awesome heat between Emil and Tomek and yourself. So it was just that much better.
I was more happy because I just beat Tomasz Gollob around Bydgoszcz.
That's it.
I remember this is an iconic situation, because there's a lot of photos, and I got a lot of stick from the press. Some of the Polish TV guys, they gave me such a hard time because they thought that I went out there to try to stuff Poland to let Russia win. And and because they looked, and I looked back at Thomas coming out of the corner like a big look back. And I remember I almost had a fight with the TV guy at the hotel after the race.
Really?
Yeah, because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's hilarious because the guy literally, I escorted the guy out. I was so angry, and it takes a lot to make me angry, but
Sure.
the guy came in and he was trying to say, you tried to screw Poland and you wanted to let Russia win. And I was trying to tell him, like everyone's starting to have a drink and relax. And I'm like, no, man, I was stoked because I beat Tomasz Gollob in his backyard, and not many people do that.
Sure.
And this guy refused it. And he was just on me constantly trying to get me to say, yes, I did that. And I just I escorted him outside and I said, basically, you can,
That's
leave the
it.
road now.
That's it.
I would never do that to Poland. I said, if you understand how good Tomasz Gollob is in Bydgoszcz, when I came out of the last corner and he was behind me at that stage, because he was in front of me, I was in first, last, third, second.
Everyone was
I came
everywhere.
out in front on that corner, and I looked back and was like, no way. I just beat Thomas in this heat. It was intense too. I mean, the blood, the adrenaline flowing in the body after a heat like that was crazy. So every once in a while it pops up, and still I see that TV guy, all the time. And I look at him and I still remember him coming up trying to say that.
But does he come up to you now like normally, or is he all right now with it?
He's all right with it. It was just one of those times. But every time I see him, I still think like, why would you try to manipulate a situation? I got way too much respect for Tomasz Gollob, or, why would I try to stuff another country? I'm not that kind of guy,
Sure. Whoever's going to win is going to win. And if Poland's strong up, they're going to go to the race off anyways. It is what it is, but
yeah. So we had nothing to gain there. It was all about, I just wanted to win against Thomas and Bydgoszcz, and that doesn't happen very often.
No, that's true. That's true.
So,
no, it was good. That was one of the ones I remember as well. That's another one going back in history a little.
Hey, there was one more Grand Prix, if you remember, too, with myself.
2008.
Yeah, with Billy and Lee Adams and Thomas. Do you remember? I don't know if it was 2008.
With Billy. Okay, we're going back together.
Tomasz Gollob, Lee Adams, and myself. And I think I nearly crossed two wheels over the white line in one corner, coming out of one corner, because it was a rainy night and they had taken all the dirt off the track, and you couldn't see the white line. So I had just turned it and pointed it, and then suddenly I was up on top of the dirt that they had bladed on on the inside of the track, and they came out of the corner, but nobody could see where I was, and I didn't know where I was. But I just and we.
This couldn't be one of the final heats. It wasn't a final heat. It was one of the normal, like a.
I can't remember, man. I don't.
Because I don't think Lee was ever in a final here in Bydgoszcz.
It might have been just a heat or a semifinal.
Yeah. Okay, but I can't remember that one.
It was a really good one too, and of course Thomas was in it, and he was riding his usual line around the fence and then turning back up the inside and passing you. As he's passing you, he's looking at you just to see what you're thinking.
That's it.
What are you gonna try now? But
that's it. Well, you're talking about if we can go on about Tomasz, if that's all right, if that's not a problem with you guys for now, I can give you. You're talking about Billy. I'll give you another perfect example of how special Tomasz was and how special it was working with a guy like him. We're in Västervik. That's a club that Tomasz represented for 10 years. And it's a league meeting. I can't remember which team we're against. But anyways, we have one of our junior riders, a Swedish rider. Everyone's all stoked that he's an up-and-coming rider. And he had his equipment, and he scored like 3 zeros. And all the zeros he was scoring, he was coming back. Oh, the kit's no good. The kit's no good. The bike is shit, this and that. And everyone's listening. Okay, it must be the kit since he's such an up-and-coming rider and this and that. Fair enough. Tomasz is riding his bike, comes in after a heat. His clutch is completely toasted, done. And he's got, I think, one heat break. Tomasz just takes off his gloves and the goggles, doesn't even take off his helmet. And if everyone knows Tomasz, he was a guy that always liked to fiddle with his own kit. Mm-hmm. He was always on the bike with his clutches, with the engines and this and that. So he's doing his own clutch up. He's taking it completely apart. There's springs and nuts and clutch plates rolling all over the pit area. And he's working. He's completely in the zone. He doesn't hear anything what's happening. The second heat goes by, and I'm telling Tomasz, listen, Tomasz, we're going out in this heat now. He doesn't even answer. He doesn't even look at me. He's doing the clutch. He's putting clutch plates in and out. Tomasz, the green light's on. He's not even looking at me. I said, Tomasz, we're on 2 minutes. I said, Tomasz, we got a minute and a half. A minute. And I'm yelling, minute. We got a minute. He finally gets up because he knows he's not going to do his own bike. The clutch is totally, everything's on the floor. Puts on his goggles and his gloves and said, get me a freaking bike. And we took the junior's bike, the guy that got 3 zeros Tomek goes out, just literally, they push him out to the tapes. He's out there with Billy, one of the greatest heats with Billy in Västervik ever. They're just up and down, up first and second between them. An awesome heat. Thomas loses this heat, comes in, and he goes up to the junior and says, you know what, this bike isn't bad. I just changed a little. I tightened up the clutch a little tweak. I tweak it just a little. The kid's so embarrassed. He just takes off his leathers and goes into the changing rooms. And just so there's a perfect example of it's more man than the machine in Speedway.
Oh my gosh, Thomas is a classic guy. I've seen him do that in Polish league events too, and jump on some other rider's bike and just smoke people.
That's it.
You can see that the riders looking at him just going, no way. I can't say anything now.
That's it. The World Cup was like that. I think in 2008, it was Australia and Poland going for the title. Lee was unbeatable. Tomek had a bad day with kit and just could not get. He was like on 3 points, but the way it went up mathematically, everyone else would have taken Tomek out, but because it's mathematically, we couldn't put in the wild card or anything like that, or the joker, or a tactical substitute. Tomek had to ride the last heat, and he's on like 2 or 3 points. Everyone's at 11, and he takes Kaczynski's bike.
Yeah,
does a practice start, look back at the pit area, just looks back and says, "I got this dialed in." I mean, you got to be pretty confident going against Lee in Leszno on not your bike, never tried the bike, that you're going to win. And he wins the heat, and he wins against Australia by 1 point.
I remember that. That was crazy.
Lee was furious. I met Lee after that meeting. We were up on the grandstands having a few drinks. They said, "Listen, you guys beat us. At least buy me some drinks." I said, "Sure, no problem, Lee." Got that one.
That's what you do, right?
That's it. You got to cover your friendship. Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many epic moments like that.
Oh, that's true. And it was just always been a good experience and a life experience to be able to take part in that. To be part in that. Of course, there was the ups and downs. That's a given. But in general, over the 25-year period, not counting obviously the last very end part, I think there's more ups and downs.
Sure.
But in all fairness, I think it takes two very different people to be able to work together, because you have it's like physics. You can't have two pluses and two minuses. A plus and a minus work together. And I think that's where Tomek and I were able to collaborate for so long for his career, during his career.
How did you guys hook up? I mean, obviously you grew up in the States. If we back up,
I grew up in the States, and when I was here, I came over to Poland, and I started working. This was the early '90s, so you remember the foreigners were just coming in. I think Hans was the first foreigner to ride in Poland,
right?
And so the clubs were getting these foreigners, but back then, in all fairness, the language barrier was a big deal to get over the language barrier. And people who were running the show are usually older people who didn't speak English. I was here, and I knew one of the presidents was a good friend of the family, and I came on over to help interpret and cooperate with the foreigners. I was taking charge of the foreigners, and back then it was Andy Smith and Sam Ermolenko who were riding for Polonia.
Right.
So I started working with them, and Tomek was an up-and-coming rider. Everyone knew he had the talent, the potential. But in all fairness, he was probably one of that's where I think where a lot of the stick comes from. He was only, because if you think about it, Speedway is a sport that is generally a 5-nation sport. It's the 2 Scandinavian countries, which is obviously Sweden and Denmark. And then you have the 3 English-speaking countries, which is Australia, America, and England. And every once in a while you'll have a German rider come in here, a Finnish rider here and there. But basically, it's always been those 5 nations. Have always been there. Even though it's really popular in Poland, those 5 nations have been running the show, let's say, with world titles, etc. And Tomek was a young coming rider who was pushing his way, elbowing his way through. And I think the stick came through also with where he had maybe a different mentality. He was an Eastern European rider. Now it's a little different. We can all see that. Now we have Russians and Poles, and there's even Czechs, etc. But back then, there was no Eastern European riders. And I think the language barrier, his mentality, being raised during a communist era, looking at the foreigners or the Western world a little differently. And I think that's where he got a lot of his stick from. And that's where I came in and tried to break the ice a little, get him more involved with people. And over time, I mean, I think at least it was a success because first and foremost, he got accepted. Then there was a friendship between different riders. And then there was the respect. And it obviously went both ways, the respect. Tomasz had respect for his rivals and his opponents on the track. And then vice versa, I think the same thing. You can say that as well, Greg. I mean, you first and foremost, you guys were. I mean, I'm not saying you guys were friends, but you guys had respect for each other, for your opponent, and etc. And then later on with time, it was more of the communication was there as much as could be expected. I mean, Tomasz can never speak as well as English as well as we can, but
Sure.
he can get his message over.
Yeah, he can understand quite a bit too. So it was.
Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Well, what is your background before that?
Background before that, I mean, I was a really young kid, so I came out of basically junior college when I came out, and just started working the sport. Finished economics. My dad's got a big auto restoration shop back home, so I dabbled a little in that. Now, actually, coming out of the Speedway a little now, that's where I'm taking over a little of his business. He's retired now, but that was basically my background. And then I just, like I said, I stayed in the sport for 25 years.
Wow.
Are we? You're younger than me, though, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. 1972.
You're 72. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
I was thinking about that too. About looking at that, we've come a long way, you know.
Oh, we have. We've gone. I think we've all gone through the ranks.
Yeah.
And you've also you've been there as well. You've seen the different changes, not only in the sport but everything to be involved. I mean, Poland. You've seen the changes of Poland. I mean, it's changed from a communist country.
Nuts.
The country has gone through abolishing the Iron Curtain, through going through the ranks to be an EU country, and there's just so many changes. Now everything's more standardized. Back then, it was sort of I'd call it a Wild West. I mean, you did things that you would never do in Sweden or in Germany or in England, things you could do in Poland. And then it's all melded out a little.
Yeah, it was like that though too, huh? I mean,
it really was like that. I mean,
I just had to ask: is your family from Poland from the beginning?
Yes. That's a funny situation. My parents were born and raised in Poland, but lived in America. I was born and raised in America, but have lived more of my life in Poland. So there you go. That's a catch-22 for you right there.
No kidding.
Why did they come to America?
Why they come? I think they came during the communist era. I mean, just for a better life, definitely. I mean, back then we all know what the lifestyle was here, and what the regime was here, and then they were fortunate enough to be able to immigrate. That's another funny story. It's they immigrated through my grandmother, whose brother was on a ship. He played in a band on the ship that was on a cruise ship. They used to go between New York and Gdańsk, back and forth.
Wow.
And in 1939, when they were coming into the Gdańsk harbor, this is August of 39, you could feel the tension that, I mean, there was going to be a world war, something breaking out. And the captain didn't come into the harbor. He stayed out in neutral waters and said to all the passengers, listen, I definitely feel there's tension here. And I mean, there's going to be war coming out. Whoever wants to go to Poland, we're going to drop the rowboats. You're free to go back to Poland. I'm turning the cruise ship back and we're going to New York. And he was in the band of the ship.
Whoa.
He went back to New York. And obviously that was like a 2-week trip. So by the time they turned around and got to New York, World War II had broken out already.
Oh, shit.
So he gets to America, and now he's sort of in that's another catch-22. He couldn't go back because there was no country to go back to, because by then Poland had been already taken over, so there was no Poland. He showed a Polish passport, so he's showing a passport of a country that doesn't exist. He can't come in because he's not American.
Wow.
And he was sort of in no man's land. And the Americans, and then for 2 years he just did odd jobs, like shoveling coal and then just helping people out, whatever. And then when America went into the war, they tried to get as many people like him to join the armed services. He was smart enough to say, listen, I can join the armed services, but I need for you to give me citizenship. The American government didn't want to give him citizenship. They just wanted to take him straight to the front line.
Wow.
So this was back and forth for a few weeks. After the American government finally said, okay, listen, here's your citizenship, but you're going to be shipped out. Luckily, he survived the war, came back. He was already an American citizen.
Wow.
Then invited his sister, which is my grandmother. And then she took her daughter, which is my mom. And of course, we couldn't leave all together. So it was first his sister. Then a few years later, my mom came over. And then I was born over there, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
man, what a story.
Yeah.
That's it. So there's a little history for you of how we got over to America.
How many of them are still around today?
My grandmother's still alive. She's 94. Yeah. She's back in Poland. She came back a few years ago.
Really?
My mom, yeah. My mom, she just retired 2 years ago. She moved back to Poland as well. And my dad, he's retired, but he's living in Oregon, part-time Oregon, part-time Hawaii. But he's going to be staying over, I think, over there. He's got, I guess he just feels more comfortable back home in America for him. And then,
sure.
So it's like that.
You know what, for your grandmother and your mom to come back to Poland after so many years too. I mean, Poland, what it was when they left.
Oh yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I mean, completely different.
Especially your grandmother.
Yeah. She left in the 60s. So I mean, here was regime, and it was the Cold War, and the politics. Even I mean, the government was telling you about the bad Americans, this and that, because they're the capitalists, et cetera, et cetera. And vice versa. We had the politics and the propaganda in America that the Russians are bad. But now, coming back to Speedway, we're Americans and Russians racing here and there, and everything's and we're buddies and everything's normal. So that's 50 years how things have changed in the world, in the Speedway world, like everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow. You speak both languages?
Yes, I do. We can convert this Polish right away if you want, but I don't think this conversation is going to go too far.
It's going to end there.
But then really fun.
Nice talking to you, Thomas. We'll catch you later. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, here you're talking about Poland, how it's changed. I don't know. Everyone who's been in the Speedway world knows Nori Allen, who used to be Ivan's mechanic, and then was Mark Lorham's manager / mechanic. And he was telling me stories when he'd come over in the 70s with Ivan for races here in Poland, either qualifiers or world championships. Nowadays, you have stickers on your van and you got your sponsors, et cetera, et cetera. He'd come in with a van with stickers on, stop at the hotel, and they wouldn't steal the van, they wouldn't steal anything, but they'd steal the stickers. He'd come back in the morning and the stickers would be ripped off the van, because back then everything was so dull and gray and black, and the stickers were colorful. You get a Castrol sticker or an NGK sticker, whatever. And it was just, that was the thing for Polish people back then. So, which was understandable. We're talking about the 70s here. So
I remember like Bobby Schwartz, some of those guys telling me too, that they, the same deal, they would travel over there back in the day and they'd be like asleep in the car during the day or during the night, getting some rest, and they could hear like something scratching on the side of the car. And that was the young kids were trying to peel the stickers off the side of the van while they were asleep at night.
Exactly. So they don't want to get too much in trouble. They don't want to steal the equipment or anything like that, obviously, but just a sticker. I mean, that was
it's, oh gosh, yeah. And the things they used to trade, I remember he said he used to come over and bring stickers or some goggles or, a T-shirt or a pair of shoes or something. And they would trade the guys in the workshops there in Poland for parts for the bikes.
Sure.
Engines and frames.
Exactly. Because Jawa was back then it was Czechoslovakia, the Czechoslovakian company. And because Czechoslovakia was in the behind the Iron Gate as well, Iron Curtain, sorry. It was easier for us to get the equipment, and obviously for a much cheaper price. And then it was just so much easier for the foreigners to trade normal goods, which we didn't have here, for equipment, like you said.
Yeah, right. That and crystal and really nice things like that. There was always some rad stuff you could get.
Exactly.
You got 5 stickers and $1, and then I get an engine.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that low, but basically that's the general idea, I guess.
Yeah. You throw in a T-shirt and you got a deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. And now look at it. Now everything's changed.
Oh man.
Where no one wants to race in the West, or maybe they don't want to race, but it's the money. We're talking about Speedway, of course, now.
Yeah.
Again, the money in England, let's say, is nothing compared to what it is in Poland. Everything's gone completely 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it completely swapped over. I mean, England was the only place to be.
Yeah.
Especially when I first came over too, and even
Exactly.
long before that. And then like you said, the door started to open in Poland and some of the Eastern countries. And Hans Nielsen, I remember he was one of the first.
He was the first one. 91, I think, was in Lublin. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, to think about it back in the day, and to go into the league. And at that point, like, he was so much more superior than all the riders in the league, because first of all, he had all the equipment that they couldn't get, because then we had all the best of the best. And not to take away from, he wasn't a bad rider either, right? So
No, he was the man. He's an awesome rider, and but definitely, I mean, he was, like I said, he's an awesome rider, and he had the kit, so he just smoked. I remember the first point he lost, because he came over the first time. It was maximum, 15 points across the board all the time. 18 if you rode a tactical. And the first point he lost was against Skupin, Egon Skupin from Rybnik.
Okay.
And unbelievable. This was in the news and the TV. Oh my God, Hans Nielsen has dropped a point.
Oh, no way.
Literally, it was like that. Yeah.
And Andre became the hero.
Yeah, Egon was. I mean, oh yeah, I mean, he was the future world champion. He's done it. He's won against Hans, and this is one of those things that he got pushed out, or he just dumped the clutch that much faster than Hans, which is almost impossible. But I guess he did it, or whatever it was. But he won against him. Fair play to him.
The stars lined up.
That's it. Oh yeah. He was a rock star for a few weeks.
Yeah, he should be rolling with it. I mean, we're still talking about him today.
That's it. Exactly. There you go.
So cool. It's so cool. I remember the first year I came to Poland was 92. I came to England in 89. And then in that year, I also made my first trip to Sweden, and I did the Czech Republic. I did the Golden Helmet in 89.
Okay.
So that was right at the basically the beginning of everything coming out of the old communist era there.
Sure.
And I was so excited. I mean, I was 18 years old or 19 at that point, but going to these countries and like seeing the UN trucks cruising around everywhere, and some soldiers on the streets with, all the machinery, the machine guns and stuff like that. And I was just like, whoa. The young California boy just going like, I thought England was crazy. And then I went to Czechia, and I just went, no way.
We're not in Kansas anymore, huh?
Yeah, that's right. It was what an eye opener. So it's kind of cool for when I started riding there in 92, it was already pretty much coming out of it fairly well, but it was still in a completely different state if you compare it to today.
Oh yeah. Things have changed so much. I remember, like I said, I was then in charge of foreigners or foreign riders in for Polonia, and we had an exchange program where some of the Polish youth would go to Australia and then went there in the winter, and then vice versa in the springtime. We got some of the Australians over, and I remember I took a van, rented a van, picked them up in Warsaw, and we're driving in, and I'm driving, we're talking, and I can see these young Australian kids. They're looking left and right, and they're all surprised at, I don't know, paved roads, and because and one of the funny thing is today, one of the riders, we're really good friends, and he's been around the sport. He stayed over in England, he rode for many years, and he's actually the team manager of Australia now, which is Mark Lemon, and he was one of the 16-year-old kids who came over back then, and we were talking. He's like, he was expecting a horse-drawn carriage and no electricity, no running water. And he's like, wait, we got hotels, we got water, we got everything here. Wow.
Look, they got lights.
That's it. And it's like that. I guess it's like I said, that's more of the propaganda aspect of it. The West was told that the East is I don't know, 150 years behind everyone, and it's bad and this and that. Yeah. And when they finally came over, they saw for themselves that it's not like that. I mean, it's just a different country, different maybe, but every country is different. You go to Sweden, you have different mentality. You go to Denmark, different mentality, right?
Mm.
and you're just across the border, and the two neighboring countries, for example, and they all differ. So, but that was a funny story as well. So that was I always, once in a while when we talk about, I see each other with Mark here and there. We always remember that time when he was in that van as a 16-year-old kid, just looking for a horse-drawn carriage.
And to be honest with, every once in a while, you'll still see that guy with a horse and carriage just cruising on the street anyway. Just some old farmer.
But in all fairness, it's very rare now.
Oh, it's very rare. Yeah, it used to be more you could see a guy here. Huh?
Sure. But now it's really hard to see a horse now. Probably maybe it's the upkeep of a horse is more expensive than buying, I don't know, a van or a tractor or whatever.
Yeah, and he's probably got to register his carriage now too. With
that's it. That's it with the DMV.
But then I think like growing up for me too in school and learning all about history and all that kind of stuff that you remember, you had this vision of Eastern Europe as black and white, you know, just because of the period. So when I first went there, I was looking for everything to be in black and white, you know, in a sense, like not really getting the picture of like, wow, it is kind of cool. They got green trees and they got blue lakes and sea, and then there's food with color, and there's like it's just something that's in your head from the movies you watched and everything.
Exactly.
The Polish people I went to Leszno, obviously my first years there, and stayed a lot with Andre Bortel. You know Andre from the club?
I don't remember him. No.
He's kind of a translator too, and he took care of everything. But he was a guy. He had like 5 or 6 kids, and he opened the door to us when we went there. He lived on the street there as you drove up to the stadium. He would come in there. I remember he invited me for lunch one day, and I walked in, and his whole family was basically standing along the side of the table, almost like in a military fashion, like welcome me to walk in. And they had my plate sitting there to sit down and eat. And it was like, I almost sat there and ate alone. Like there wasn't anything more. And I suddenly felt like, what, isn't everybody else going to kind of sit down and enjoy? But it was like, this was like for them, it was a real honor. So they just wanted to feed me and entertain me. It was almost like they were giving me the food that they had left. The feeling was like that. They gave me what they had. They didn't have a lot, you know, there wasn't a lot of money in the house. And he spent years working in the UK and all around as doing odd jobs and sending money home for the wife and the kids to survive so they could live a little bit better life from it. And that was the first time I realized, like, wow, these are good people, you know, they'll give you the shirt off their back, basically, just because you are this person that you are. They're amazing and so hospitable, you know.
There's even a saying in Polish that's exactly translated. If there's a guest in the house, it's God, and God is in the house.
Really?
So, yeah. So gość w domu, Bóg w domu, which is, like I said, a guest in the house is God in the house.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So ask Rafa that one.
I will ask that.
He'll tell you that. That's an old Polish saying, and it's like that every time a guest comes over. Everyone turns their life on pause, and let's have a sit down. Let's have some good food and just talk and just enjoy.
That's pretty cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Not like in California, you come to our place, you're just another dude. Hey, what's up?
That's it. You talk in the door in the door. You don't even, someone's let them in.
Yeah, that's
you
it.
Want to come in? Well, yeah. I'd like to come in. Sure, why not?
Did God just come in the house? Now it's just some dude from down the street. It's one of my buddies. Yeah, that's pretty rad. You're
yeah. But like I said, going back to the changes in Poland, where we were fortunate enough, where I was fortunate enough to be part of that as well, is with Speedway back in the time. The riders, you signed you were a club rider, and every time you did anything with the club, you were assigned a club mechanic, a club car, etc. And Tomek and Jacek, because his brother Jacek was also a rider, we were the first Polish riders to have your own van. In the day. You think about it, things that kids take for granted now. You don't. You start riding. You buy a van. You buy your own kit. You're an independent rider. You sign a deal. You get your money, whatever. But you do what you want to do when you want to do it. Tomek was the first one to have his own van, so he wasn't dependent on the club. That the club would say, okay, we'll give you a van or we'll drive you here. No, we drove when we wanted to drive, which is something really weird. Tomek, his first qualifications as a junior, he went to Finland, Tampere. So it was one rider and like 5 officials from the PZM watching him over in 8. This was still before communism fell. So I remember those times as well. I mean, unbelievable times. Unbelievable times.
It really is. And I remember also coming to Bydgoszcz too. One of the first times I went there, and I mean, still today, you have the big mural there on the side of the wall of Thomas sitting on the bike, which is like, it's like iconic, you know, it's on the side of a wall as you drive into the pit area. It's huge. And it's a picture of Thomas from back in the day with his black suit, and it's got the Bydgoszcz race jacket on, and he's got the helmet. He's on an old Jawa, and you're looking at it just going like, I remember that guy was riding this equipment that was so much older. And, you know, when we came in there with our new GMs and all our stuff, he looked at it and he thought, the only chance I got to beat this guy really was because I had better equipment underneath me. But you got to be good, because that guy could just ride anything.
That's it.
He was special, you know. He is special, and
that's it.
He can do crazy stuff. And of course, Samar Malenko told me a lot of stories about, you should watch this guy. He's gonna be the bomb. You know, he's gonna be the shit.
That's it. He did say that. I remember that as well. He always talked about it. I remember another rider that, because we're going from rider to rider, so we'll give us some more information. The first year that a rider, you've probably heard of him. I don't know. You might have not heard of him. Tony Richardson.
That's Swedish guy?
Who? Tony who? Yeah. He signed his first contract for Polonia in 91.
Really? So,
yep. And he came over in the springtime to do some testing and start racing and stuff like that. And Tony always had immaculate equipment. We got to be honest here. He was always head and shoulders above everyone, even at his young age. And he brought in his bikes. They're immaculate. Everything's looking really well. And he was, back then, if I'm not mistaken, he was world number 2, because he was second behind, was it, well, no, 91, was it Yano?
Oh.
Yeah, he was second behind Yano. Yano was on maximum.
Gothenburg. Yeah,
Gothenburg, that's it. So he's world number 2. He's got this immaculate equipment. He signed his first deal for in Poland, which is Polonia Bydgoszcz. And he's starting racing here, and he gets beat by some guy. And the guy's got a pink front mud guard, a purple rear mud guard. The clutch is literally on plastic ties or whatever. And I remember Tony comes in, takes his helmet off, and comes in, looks at the bike. He says, "I can't believe it. I just got beat by a guy on this bike." And that was Tomek. So.
And that was him.
That's it. And of course, they had their rivalries in the 90s as well.
Yeah,
they went head to head.
Times, huh?
That's it. Tony was, like I said, I was always head and shoulders above, I guess, everyone, and it was pretty special to be able to even keep up with him. Very rarely could you beat him, but keep up with him. And if you think about the late 90s, it was Tomek that was, in all fairness, pushing him, I think, the most. And then in the early 2000s, it was Crumpy doing that. Right. Pushing Tony. It was always behind him though, and so was Tomek. And it was always that missing link. So, where I guess Tony could always put it together into one big puzzle. You know what it's like to win a world title. So it's a lot of aspects, a lot of things. You got to put them all together in one piece at one moment.
Yeah, sure.
And then the missing piece is always that piece that we have nothing to do with, which is luck. You can put the logistics, you can put your training, you can put the kit, you can do everything. You got to feel good, you got to be race fit, etc., etc. And then there's the aspect of luck. And then I guess you got to have all those together to win a world title. We were fortunate enough to do it in 2010. And just Tony was much more fortunate that he did it 6 times.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm wondering if the purple and pink mud guards and all that stuff were the things that instigated Tony's period of purple and pink there for a while. I remember he had. I
don't think so. You never know though. I have to ask him one day.
Bit me.
That's it. You never know, but I don't think so. But I remember that he was a purple. He had the first nylons, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I can see it like yesterday, and that was like,
me too. On the Jawa, and he had his Oakley glasses, the fluorescent yellow Oakley glasses. He was just way out there, and the first mobile home.
Yeah, he did.
That's it. I can see him in Tarnów when he pulls up in Tarnów. It's just mind-boggling. And
Yeah.
everybody knows Tarnoff. Tarnoff's a little off the beaten path. It's a little southeastern situated, and I can just see him in '94 showing up there in a mobile home with purple nylons and his fluorescent Oakley goggles. Unbelievable.
You talk about bringing some color into that town.
That's it.
Especially at that period. I mean, it's still that little small town. There's, when you drive through Tarnoff, it's like you have Azalte, you have Tauern, which is not far away, of course, and then there was Tony.
Exactly. That's it.
Tony's in town.
That's cool.
Those are some good times. Someday it'd be fun to ask Tony some of these questions too. We'll grab him.
Oh, sure, definitely.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so fun to hear the story from everybody's, everybody, the horse's mouth, as you say. But there's so many cool things that have happened. I mean, and for me, these eras are like, I remember those periods better than I do the more recent years. That's probably my age,
You're getting senile, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Something there. I mean, the early days I can remember really good, but it's more the last few years. It becomes so more repetitious all the time. So it feels like it's another day, another race. You're going like that.
Mm-hmm.
Every race back then, when you're like learning the ways, you were installing the software, So it was like all that stuff was coming in all the time, and now you're just updating here and there.
Exactly. I'll give another funny story. Like I said, I was responsible for the foreigners. This was 94. Sam is still riding for Polonia. He's flying in from England, and it was always via Copenhagen back then, because you had to do SAS, you had to do the England Copenhagen, and then Copenhagen, I think it was to Gdańsk. And the flight is called off in Copenhagen for some reason, either a strike, whatever it is, I can't remember. And he calls us from the airport, and we're racing in Tarnoff. We're already in Tarnoff back then. No, sorry, we weren't in Tarnoff. We were racing in Tarnoff, but we weren't there. We're going to drive. He was supposed to fly into Warsaw. He can't get in. So what we do, we're talking about the Wild West, things that are just unimaginable today. We got to get a plane, organize a plane, but it's 94. People don't have private planes. There's no chance to rent anything like that. They call up the hospital, get a medical plane. I go up in the plane, fly into the main airport of the capital city of Poland, Warsaw, land on the main strip of the airstrip.
Oh my God.
He flies into Warsaw a little later because he got a later flight. Get him on the plane, because there's no way we can drive from Warsaw. Well, we won't make it in time. And we fly into Tarnoff. On the plane, he's already getting changed into his leathers. I think it was Kevlars back then. Okay, but let's say Kevlars, in his race suit, and someone picks us up. We drive up to Tarnoff, and we're at the gate. He's in his race suit, all suited up with his helmet in his hand. And this is like I think heat two is already gone or something like that. And we're saying, open the gate. And they said, well, how do we know this? Because it's Sam. We're racing. How do we know he's Sam? Well, duh, he's in his race suit. He was world champion from last year. He's in a race suit. They're playing with us. Obviously, they're playing the time game to extend the time so he wouldn't go out in his first heat. Oh. Luckily, they open the gate. He runs into the pits, literally gets on his bike, does his 5 races, and I think we won in Tarnoff, actually. He scored like 12 or 13 points. So.
Oh, my gosh.
That's it.
That's cool.
Yeah, those Wild West stories, they did exist, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I had a similar one, not to steal the show, but they had a similar one where I rode for Gniezno one year too, and it was one of the early meetings of the year in April or something, and I was racing against the team that Craig Boyce was riding for at that point, which I can't remember.
I think it was Gorzów.
Was it Gorzów? Okay.
I think.
And I flew into Warsaw, and then should get the connection. I think, and the connection was canceled because it was snowing. It was like rain and snow, so they hired a helicopter, one of their little helicopters off the side, and this is like 94 too. I think it was the same year. And I remember I came out, and I ran out. No, it was 94, 95 maybe.
Yeah, I think you rode 96, 97, or 96. It could have been even. Would you ride for Gniezno 96? But anyways.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because maybe I had a year off when in between.
95, you were off.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Leshno got relegated.
That's right.
We're talking about that.
Yeah, good memory, man. and then they put me on this helicopter. I remember I got in, this thing was so old, and I'm looking at it going like, no way. I mean, it was off to the side. I remember seeing these things in the past. It was like they're all covered up, and suddenly they're going to cover this thing and fire up, and we're going to fly to Gniezno. I got in there, and I'm like, I'm crapping my pants, you know, like this is no way this is going to happen. It's snowing in the air, and we get in. I put all this harnesses on and the earphones and all that stuff, and the guy takes off, and as he starts flying, he pulls out a road map. And I don't know if it was because of maybe they didn't have the technology to talk to the ATC the same way and all that. The guy followed the road map all the way to Gniezno, above the trees. He just stayed above the trees and followed the roads.
Oh, shit.
Unbelievable.
And we pulled in there, and then they circled around the track 2 or 3 times, landed me in the center green, and I walked out like a rock star, and the race was canceled.
Oh, no.
I'll never, ever, ever forget that. It was so funny. I mean, I'm looking at these guys going, they're following a roadmap. No way. It was so cool, but that's how you did it, you know? Yeah. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the weather or whatever. They couldn't get the same signal. So it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, those are times that you can't experience now. Now it's too many rules and regulations, EU this, EU that. They won't let you up in the air if you don't have the specifications and whatever. So it's back then it was the right person called the right guy. It was a phone call away type thing.
Yeah, anything could happen, right?
Anything could happen. It was like, I don't know, like the 1920s in America, the Prohibition area. Just the right guy calls the right guy. It's got to be done.
Yeah, even getting stopped by the police for speeding down the side of the road, you know, it was like, oh yeah. In the end, you weren't speeding at all. Everything was fine.
That's it.
Everything just worked out. Oh, either you're a Speedway guy or.
That's it. Here, I'll give you here's another one. Here's another good one.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're talking about the speeding.
Yeah.
We're in Sweden, and of course, Sweden is a country. Stefan, you can confirm this, as a very law-abiding country, and everything's done by the book, which is fantastic. I'm not negotiating that or anything like that. We're driving, and this was the year that Michael Turnberg. You know Michael really well, I think, as well, from Helsinki. Yeah. He was managing Västervik. He picks us up from the airport, and we're driving to a league meeting. I don't know. I think it's Vetland or wherever. And we're driving. He's going a little faster than can drive. And the police stop him.
Messing, huh? Sorry, Michael Messing. That was.
Sorry, Messing.
You're right. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Michael Messing. That's it. And we're driving. We get pulled over, and he's freaking out. He's, oh, geez. Oh, we're screwed now. Oh, I just lost my license. And I'm sitting in the back seat. Thomas is in front. I'm saying, listen, Michael, take it easy. Just tell him you're the manager of Västervik, an elite league club. You got Tomasz Gollob right here. You're going to the league meeting. No, Tomasz, this doesn't work. This is Sweden. I can't. Oh shit, a cop like this. This doesn't fly in Sweden. I said, trust me. Just tell them what I'm telling you. Speedway, Västervik, elite league, Tomasz Gollob. It'll work. The cop comes over. He rolls down the window. Yeah. They start talking. Says, yeah, Västervik, Michael Messing. And I'm just getting the words like Tomasz Gollob, we're racing elite league. And the cop says, okay, just please slow down and please continue driving. We take off. And Michael looks at me and says, I can't believe it. This is unbelievable. This stuff doesn't happen in Sweden. I said, listen, trust me. It happens everywhere. You just got to know what to say to the right person.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it.
You start with the truth, right?
Yeah, it was the truth. I mean, it was Tomek, and we're riding for an elite league club, Västervik, and we're going to Vetlanda. It's the truth.
And it works. And the truth
That's it.
Doesn't hurt.
That's it. Exactly.
It's just how you put it.
That's exactly how it is. Exactly how it is.
Nice.
So that was another one so I guess Speedway was being involved in Speedway for so long. That was the perks of the sport is sometimes you could get away with some things, but also I mean, you yourself are a perfect example. How much stuff we've seen. If you were a regular Joe Black or whatever back home, you'd have your 9-to-5 job. You wouldn't even see half the countries or half the places we've been to. Yeah. Look at the sport, how far it's gotten us all over. It gets us to America, to Australia. We've been to New Zealand. When would you have gone to New Zealand? Well, maybe you would have gone, but I mean, in all fairness, most of us wouldn't have gone. You see so many interesting, beautiful countries, meet so many interesting people. It's really nice, and that's why. And another aspect after my Speedway wise, of course, our cooperation with Tomasz is finished. That's why now I'm at the stage where I now want to give back to the sport in some way or form. Because the sport has given me so much. Now I want to turn it around and give the sport back something as well.
What kind of ideas have you got, or what are you working on?
You know what? I'm not working with any ideas per se. I have a few ideas in my head here and there, but I just feel that I wouldn't want to waste the knowledge. I'm not trying to be a smart ass or anything like that, but the knowledge I've attained for 25 years, I wouldn't want it to be wasted and have young kids who are coming up through the ranks go through all the stepping stones and open all the wrong doors, etc., 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 that we had to open, or you had to open, all of us had to open, because I have the experience. I know which doors to open, which doors not to open, which way to step, which way not to step, to maybe accelerate someone's career. And why should he have to go make some mistakes when these mistakes can be you can be rerouted a little, take a little detour, because I know which detour to take. We all know, because all I'm talking about people who have the experience, who've been there. We've been around the block a few times. So, and we all know it, like everywhere in the world, there's dodgy people, dodgy contracts you want to get around. And sometimes when I see these young kids signing these dodgy contracts, it's, Jesus, don't do that because this and this.
Yeah, it's true though. You want to try to help them to avoid all that. I'm with you there. I'm the same in many ways like that too. You do whatever you want to do to try to help the guys, just to maybe eliminate some of those speed bumps and those left and right corners that you could probably go this way and be a lot better off.
Exactly. Because we've been there, we've done that, and in all fairness, times have changed. We're talking about Poland and Europe and everything, but in Speedway, like in life in general, some things haven't changed. I mean, it's Speedway. We're talking about Speedway, but every occupation has obstacles that the elders know how to walk around and miss, while younger kids will just go straight through them and hit their head against a brick wall.
That is so cool. How is it like to be a manager?
Well, it's got some ups and downs, I guess. That's a given. I know what it's like to be a manager for Tomasz. We're talking about the good aspects of him and how fantastic a rider and a person he is and stuff like that. But also, I guess I guess we could say in a Polish form, at least in Poland, a superstar person. I mean, he's won the Sports Personality Award a few times, and people like that are sometimes very difficult to work with. Sometimes easier. But it's an experience. It's a learning experience. With time, we had our team dialed in so well that people were even laughing in the Grand Prix. We had the quietest team in the Grand Prix because Greg knows Thomas's mechanic, Manu Bugsy. He very rarely speaks. He's a very quiet person. I do a lot of speaking. But after 25 years, you learn the rider's mood, personality so well that in the pits, I knew when to come up to Tomasz, calm him down. I knew when to step away to give him some room. And we could do all of that without even talking. It was all eye contact. It was literally eye contact, which got us around the pit sometimes in situations that were either hectic or nerve-wracking or I remember, Greg, we had a situation, we had I'd call it a little fallout between you and Tomasz. This was the Grand Prix in Bydgoszcz, and in all fairness, there was 2 meetings always for Tomasz that were the worst during the whole season. You do plus minus 100 meetings or whatever during a season, and there's 2 always that are the worst for Tomasz. It's the final of the Polish National Championship, and it's the Grand Prix in Poland in Bydgoszcz. And that's because both of them, there is no second place for him. It was those meetings you had to win. You can win in Kursko, you could win in, I don't know, Cardiff. You don't have to win there. But in Bydgoszcz, you have to win. And the Nationals, you have to win it. And those are always the 2 most nerve-wracking meetings. And one year we were placed next to each other in the pits. And I remember Tomasz went off a little at Greg. And it wasn't Greg's fault. Greg did nothing, just Thomas was, he had a short fuse on that day. And I remember you said a few words, which was a little uncensored, but we won't go into that. But there you go. You remember those times, and we had a lot of those times. And you're asking me how it is to be a manager. Being a manager in a situation like that is not comforting, because I know that tomorrow we're going to be friends again. Especially Speedway is a very funny sport. Is that today we're racing against each other. Tomorrow we're teammates, and not only are we teammates, we're in the same heat together, and we're watching each other. And sometimes Tomasz had a short fuse, and I'm thinking, okay, it's a short fuse today, but tomorrow we're with Greg again. We're going to race, or with whoever it is.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's a balance. It's a very delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there aren't, I don't know if there is another sport in the world that has this kind of a scenario, you know, where you're even not just a world championship one day and a league race the next day, but then the next day again, 2 days later, you have another league race in a different country, a different league, and where you were partners 2 days before, now you're against each other again.
Exactly.
And you know each other so well,
Mhm.
yet you go to the starting line thinking, I know what he's going to do, but actually, no, I'm not really sure if he's going to do that, because is he playing me the same way that we played 2 days ago, or
that's it.
So-
And then there's if you're a teammate together, you're giving each other hints. Okay, this track is like this. Okay, I'd do this, or I'd gear this, and 2 days later you're saying you're rivals again, and then do I listen to what he said 2 days ago, or was he playing like you said? It's a tricky game. But like I said, we know each other so well, all of us. So one big Speedway family, because we see each other day in, day out. I mean, like you said, if someone takes all the leagues, your Saturdays, Friday you're practicing for the Grand Prix, so we're together. Saturday's the Grand Prix, Sunday you're in Poland, Monday you're in England, Tuesday is Sweden, Wednesday is Denmark, Thursday is either a qualification or you got your day off, and then Friday you're back on the qualification for the Grand Prix again, or whatever. Week in, week out. So we see each other constantly. And I remember even with like in the day, you still maybe Wilbur was around, but Lee, for example, had his 2 kids, Crumpy, Tony had his 2 daughters. We saw these kids growing up even at Grand Prix. I mean, I saw Declan and Mia and Sarah, they're all growing up, and we played football in the paddock area where the vans are or whatever. Just one big family. Lee would be grilling because he always did his barbecuing and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it. So
between him and then having Carl around, whether he was with you guys or Tony or Lee, and
that's it.
There was always the master chef, you know.
That's it. Exactly. And I always wanted to keep it as friendly as possible. But with time, we all accept each other. We are all friends. I'll give another example of how well the friendship worked. We're racing in Sweden on Tuesday. Wednesday is the ferry's taking off to Riga, because we're racing on Saturday in Daugavpils. So logistically, the easiest way for us was to take the ferry on Wednesday, travel over to Riga. It was a 30-whatever-hour ferry, but it's better than driving back through Poland and this way, southern way. So, and most of all the teams are on there. Lee and Lee Richardson was there. A bunch of riders. Most of the teams were there, and we're coming onto the ferry. As soon as we get on the ferry, our fuel pump breaks, just snaps. Fuel's leaking out. The guy on the ferry is yelling at us. As soon as you shut off the car, the van, the fuel isn't leaking. So we shut off the car, but we know we're on the 36-hour trip. We're going to Riga. This is 2002 or something like that. We don't know what to expect. I think this is our first trip to Riga. We don't know what to expect in Latvia, and we don't know who to call and this and that. So we're on the ferry, and we're sitting, we're eating, we're all together. This is all fun and games. And I'll show you a moment of friendship. Is tomorrow there'll be rivalries because we show up on Thursday, Friday, whatever. Saturday they'll all be racing against each other. They're all rivals. But on that Thursday, we all pitched in. Lee took a bike. Lee Richardson took the bike kit. Someone else took the toolbox, and they all pitched in. We left. We took our. Lee had the biggest van. He had the mobile home. He towed us to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. Left our car there, and they all drove us to Daugavpils, and they all pitched in just to help Tomasz.
Wow.
So, and his team. So it's a
Amazing.
it's a rivalry, but also it's a camaraderie.
Yeah.
And we would always help each other in many aspects. Vice versa, another aspect where Tomek helped someone else. Henke had a crash. We were in racing in Rzeszów. This was, I think, 96 or 97. And on the way back, we had 2 on the trot. And so we were racing on a Saturday and on a Sunday because there was rain-off meetings. So Saturday, we're in Rzeszów. We're driving back to Bydgoszcz. And in Łódź, Henke's friend, which is a mechanic, had the accident, crashes the van. We're driving up. We, of course, completely pack our van with Henke's equipment. Jacek pulled up in his van, packs everything up, and we tow Henke's van. Here's another Wild West story today. We towed him to the dealership in Bydgoszcz, and if you remember, Tomek was sponsored by that dealership. It was Golshorek. He had it on his arms for many years. We pull up to the dealership. We're telling Henke that tomorrow your car will be ready. He says, no. In Sweden, we got to order parts. It takes 2 weeks before the parts come in from Germany. By the time in Sweden, it takes 2 to 3 weeks. I said, listen, tomorrow the car, by the time the meeting finishes, you'll be leaving in your own van. He says, no, that's impossible. He went to sleep. Woke up in the morning, we did the meeting, and at the very end of the meeting, Henke's van pulls up into the pits so he can pack up and go back home. He says, how did that happen? I said, listen, this is the Wild West. What they actually did is they took the parts off a brand new van.
Oh, no way.
Put them on his car, ordered new parts
Wow.
for a new van, and when they came in a week or whatever, they put it on the car, and it was all right. But Henke's car had to leave.
We fixed it for the moment. It's ready to go.
That's it. But it had all brand new parts, and it was a done deal. So Henke 24 hours later had his van up and running, and he went home in his own van, which he couldn't believe.
I can totally believe it too, because I mean I've had so many situations in Poland like that too, where the odds are against you, man. But you never underestimate. You guys do know how to fix things and make them happen quick. And there's a few phone calls, and suddenly you got people showing up everywhere. And then, no problem, we fixed it, no problem.
That's it. Exactly.
I like it too when everybody gets talking, and of course they don't understand what they're saying, but everyone gets going. It almost feels like a heated situation when you guys in a Polish fashion, and you're like, hey, is everything okay? Yeah, why? You're like, right, just checking. Just look back at everything. No, everything's cool. It'll be all right.
That's it. I have a lot of friends who are from here, in America, or wherever, and they don't speak Polish. And when they hear Polish, they said, "You guys don't have any breaks between words. It's all one word."
Yeah,
it's right. Like Hungarian. But for me, for example, it's Finnish and Hungarian are like that as well. I can't understand a single word of those 2 languages.
No, that's right. Yeah.
That's it. I don't know, Stefan. I don't know. Can you understand Finnish?
No, not at all.
No, that's what I thought.
It can't be that hard though, because I've seen little kids speak it.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's like an old dad joke. That's what my wife's dad always says. It can't be that difficult. I've seen little kids speaking it.
It's a good one. But you've learned Swedish, right, over the years?
Yeah, I've picked up quite a bit.
Okay. Are you fluent though? Are you fluent in Swedish?
I wouldn't say full fluent, but I can do pretty good.
Okay. But is it speaking and reading as well?
Yeah, I can read quite a bit too. There's some things that can be, it's still tough. There's still a lot of words that I don't know, but in conversation, you can kind of, you can get the logistics or the gist of a lot of it, and it can kind of hop over.
Okay.
But that can also bite you in the ass at the same time too. You can think that, oh yeah, I got this all under control.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You suddenly you give an answer to a question, and they're looking at you like, what? Like, I didn't get that, did I?
Something's wrong here.
Yeah, something ain't right. But it's getting better.
That's it.
You're obviously got the couple languages there too, so you know that you got to speak them to be better and not be afraid.
Yeah, definitely.
Not be afraid to make mistakes. So
definitely. But then again, how does it work for you with Danish? Because I know Danish and Swedish are related, like Polish and Czech, for example. Sometimes if a Czech speaks very slowly, I can get the general idea of what he's trying to communicate to me. Does it work for you as well with Danish?
I think it's that Danish is easier. The Danish people have easier to understand Swedish than we have to understand Danish.
Oh, okay.
In the same manner, like you just said too, it feels like for me the Danish is a really fast, and like the words kind of blend in together, almost like they're in a way. But Swedish seems to be a little bit more hard.
Danish is more, I don't know what to call that. It's like they have.
Okay, it's more like a German, like a Germanic with the German a little, isn't it?
Maybe. Nah. I don't know actually.
It could be. I've spent so much time with Danish people in the past too, and I lived with Eric Gunnarsson for a year too, and I learned a lot of Danish words, so I can pick up a lot of words when they speak, but man, when they get going, no chance at all. It's like it just flows, and you just go, oh yeah, you'll catch the odd word here and there, but it's hard. It's really hard.
I think that we can speak with each other if we're talking slowly, but most of the time we switch to English.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's the funny part. You see the Danes and the Swedes talking to each other in English.
That's it.
Yeah, we have a lot of customers in Denmark, but it's easier in English.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most Swedes speak English too. You know that yourself.
All of Scandinavia, in all fairness. I remember the first time I came over, this was before GPS and stuff like that. And we were, I think, racing in Hagfors 97, and we're driving up, and I'm asking for directions or something like that. And I'd come up to a gas station, and the first question, excuse me, you speak English? And she says, okay, yeah. And then I'd ask a question or whatever. And then after the second or third time it was a matter, I'd walk in, I'd just start speaking English. I wouldn't ask her, does she speak English?
Yeah.
But you already know that, 90%, well, maybe not 90, whatever. Most of the citizens in Sweden speak English.
Yeah. I even like ordering a part for my wife's car recently too, and I had to call the dealer, and of course they speak English, but I still did the same. Like, I'm going to try to speak to this guy and ask him about the part in Swedish, but I have no idea what the word is in Swedish I need to use. So I'm going to just, hey, do you speak English? And he said, a little. And then we started to speak, and he spoke English like perfect. But if I asked him, he said, a little. But then when you started talking, he was perfect. So I thought, I shouldn't even say it like you just said.
Keep it on the safe side for him then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He kind of covered all ground.
That's it. Covered all his bases.
Company or
you never know. There's also when Tomek was racing, when there was riders from the county of Bydgoszcz. So it was Tomek back in the day. Then it was Emil because he was riding for Polonia, and then there was someone riding from Torun, because that's Torun and Bydgoszcz are from the same county. Mm-hmm. The region is called Pomorze and Kujaw, and there's a radio, Pomorze and Kujaw, and they make it short, it's P and K. Mm-hmm. But P and K, and with the and in Polish is E, which is an I. And together they had a radio station, and they'd always go to the Grand Prix and do the commentating. And they had their company van, and it's always radio PIK. But PIK in Danish is Dick, so it was Radio Dick, and all the Danes would always laugh. Oh, look, there goes Radio Dick.
Dick's in the house.
That's it. So there's a something we would have never known, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I always remember Niels and Nikki were always laughing, and here we go.
Well,
here we go again.
You have kind of a similar thing in Swedish too with the pit.
Yeah.
With the pit.
Really? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
That's right. Same situation. Okay. I said, "You want to meet me in my pit?" And they're like, "You mean the depot in Swedish?"
The depot. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. Those are little things like that you experience through travel and through being able to see many people and places like that. Exactly.
You gotta have the giggle.
Exactly.
Through all the giggles, man, you obviously worked hard as a manager, as a partner, a friend, and everything with Thomas too, and then the whole team you guys have around you. The amount of years, if we look at the career that you ran through the team, Thomas was so close so many times to win the world titles, and it was like, it felt like Poland and the people and the sponsors and everything, they're pushing so hard to see him there, and he was almost there so many times. And then 2010, you guys nailed it, right? You had these all years, and everything, the stars lined up, the luck lined up. But Steph and I have been talking about this recently too, like Ingmar Stenmark, the Swedish.
And I know him.
Is one of the quotes was something about luck, and they said after all the winning, you were pretty lucky, right? And he says, no, I can't remember exactly how it's quoted, but like, I trained so hard that I made my own luck or something like that. So wouldn't you agree in that sense too with Thomas. I mean, luck is one thing, but that guy works hard, and he's done so many hours. I know stories, and I remember hearing, you know, late at night when practice is finished and everything's done, and suddenly you can hear a guy going around in the middle of the night around the track, and you look, it looks like there's one light on at the track, and lo and behold, that was the man himself out there still ripping laps in the middle of the night trying to work it out. So no matter what was going on, that just showed the determination, the hard work, the effort to find that last little bit to win.
You're talking about determination. He was so determined. Sometimes we had a league meeting, which is a local derby, Torun Bydgoszcz in Torun. Thomas scored 14 points, dropped a point to a rider you might have heard of again, Per Jansson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an embarrassment to drop a point to Per.
Right.
Tomasz on the way back, and this is literally like a 40-minute drive back home. He's fuming. He was being a younger kid, obviously. He's just, oh my God, how did I do that? Every point he dropped wasn't a point that, it's a point. It's, oh my God, I lost the point type deal. We came back to the track. He says, I gotta practice. I got an idea in my head. I gotta try something because I won't fall asleep. I made a mistake. And we're telling him, Tomasz, there's no one at the track. There's no lights. Not a problem. Everyone had to pull their car up onto the track, turn on their headlights. And we're telling him, but the track is dry. He had his mechanics, the helpers, everyone around him. We had little like water things, like where you water flowers, like gardener's water, like a little bucket, whatever. We're putting little water just on one strip so you can make a practice start on a semi-grippy track. He did a few practice starts. Okay. I think I know I know where the problem is. Okay, now I can go to sleep. Okay, guys, see you tomorrow or whatever. So we're up at midnight on a pitch black track in Bydgoszcz with headlights on the track. We're watering just a rut for him to do a practice start, so he can do 2 or 3 practice starts. I mean, that's how determined he was.
Wow. You talk. Otherwise, I in one part, I can totally understand what he's coming from too, because I'm a freak like that. I don't have the kind of knowledge that he does as far as the mechanics of the engine and how he's definitely got a really good feel. But I know what I want, and I just gotta have somebody to make it work for me, right? You gotta I want it to do this and do this and do this. But I've had numerous nights where I'm driving home, and I wish I could find that track where I didn't have the key to open the place or whatever. But to lay in bed, you're thinking, I got to try this. And I hope that tomorrow I have the same feeling about this when I wake up and I want to do it and whatever. But he was doing it.
Sure, he was. But then there was instances where sometimes I couldn't understand them. The first meeting, very first, this was your very first one as well, the very first one-off track meeting we ever had, which is in Cardiff, 2001. So it's a new experience for all of us. Tomasz at the beginning of the meeting, he's not having a good meeting. We do some Mickey Mouse setup. We never ever did a setup like that again. After the meeting, I'll tell you, Gray, if you want to hear about it. We do a Mickey Mouse setup. He wins 3, and this is the knockout system. If you remember, this is the 2 heats. You go back. So he had a bad one, he had a good one, then he had another bad one. Then we did change, and then he went through all the qualifications, and everything was all fine. He goes up to the semifinal. Everything's 3-3-3 later on. He comes up to the final. He's got first choice. Back then, gate 1 is the best gate. That's a given. He has first choice. And this was back in the day where the mechanic, or I walked up with them this time as well, where the mechanic walked up to the tapes, and when the rider was choosing by like picking up like a flag or whatever, like which gate you want to start from. Yeah. And I got the red helmet in my hand. I mean, it's a given. We're taking gate 1 because it's the best gate. And he's kicking left and right. And I said, okay, it's a psychological game. He's playing everyone for time. And he's going 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2. And it's like, come on, Tomasz. I mean, we're going to take 1. And Tony Richardson is standing right next to me. And he's already looking at number 2 because Tomasz is going to take 1. So he's going to take number 2, which is the second best gate. And Tomasz, for some reason, picks up the blue one. And I remember Tony looking at me like, what the hell just happened? What did he just do? He just lost the final. And of course, he did lose the final. Tomasz took 2. Obviously, Tony drew straight to 1. Then Crumpy, I think, took 3. And then I think it was, Nicholas Klingberg was from 4, something like that. And Tomasz was 3rd in front of Nicholas. But we lost the final there. And I said, why did you choose that one? He says, because I thought the rut was a little too deep. But I said, Tomasz, but you just won the last 2 or 3 heats from one. He was scared that he'd bog down on the silence or whatever. But
totally.
So right. in all aspects, he was the man. He had the knowledge and everything, but he's human and he does make mistakes as well, like we all do.
Yeah. No, but that's, you know what I've had these arguments with my guys too. I've taken something against what they, you know, the obvious. I'm like, yeah, but the same deal. The ruts are so deep. This has happened to us totally. The ruts are so deep, and I'm too afraid that it's gonna hit when you drop the clutch. The pipe's gonna bottom out on the ground, and I'm not gonna get the jump. The rut's too deep for the bike.
Sure.
And but I mean, nowadays, you know, I'm notorious for digging until it's like the last second, you know, before you got to be lined up. But because a lot of times I need every minute of that 2 minutes, every second of that 2 minutes to knock that rut down, then I got to be in it. So I've got to find a way to make the pipe not hit.
Exactly.
It's a game though, but you know, sometimes it works, and you go, and everybody's going, no way. But they're the first ones to remind you that you should have taken one when it doesn't go right.
That's it. Exactly. You're all asking me before what my job was also working with Tomasz. I always like to, because in all fairness, we all know it's a psychological game as well. There's only as much kit, there's only as much fitness, and then there's a psychological aspect of it as well. And I used to break down. Break down is maybe not the correct word, but I'd like to analyze the riders, and I'd find little quirks, little things that they did, and I know if that rider, the opponent on the day, was dialed in, was he psychologically there? Do we have a chance to win against him? And those little things I'd tell Tomasz, because Tomasz likes to always know who's racing against from what gate. He always wanted to know that. And I used to break down the riders and like what they were doing, and I won't give you too many details about the riders who are currently still racing, but some of the riders, they do their own little thing that if you look at them, you'll know on the time that he's there, he's on his game, he's at his A game there, or he's sort of not there. And then there's aspects where riders would have their habits, that they do things that they won't race without doing that little thing. Like, I'll give you an example here. Scott Nichols won't put his leg over a bike. He always walks onto his bike from behind.
Oh.
Something like that. Then there's other ones, but they're still racing, so I don't want to, in all fairness, Scott is still racing, but I'm talking about Grand Prix riders. I don't want to go into too many details. I want to open up all their secrets, Pandora's box, so I won't do that. But when they stop racing the Grand Prix, I'll open up that box again, and I'll let you know a few details. But I know
we'll save this podcast for another event.
That's it. Exactly. But everyone did their own little thing, and I knew watching them when they have their A game there.
Wow.
Because in all fairness, you know that as well, Greg. There's only so much kit, so much going back to the luck. When I was saying about luck, you can get you can draw a better or worse riding number on a certain track.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you got your A game there and everything works for you, you can win 4 times from gate 3 if need be, or from 4 or whatever. But sometimes there are numbers. That's what I was talking about, the luck. Sometimes there are numbers that are just a little unfortunate. And for example, my worst number, if I was always to choose something, is number 3.
Yeah.
Because you're starting 3, 4, 3. And if on a one-off track or on a small track, that sort of hurts, because you're coming back and you're scoring a point or maybe if you're lucky 2 points, but you don't know if it's you or if it's the kit or what do we change, because the inside gates where sometimes they're so much better that your 1 point is actually not bad because you did it from 3. But you don't have a time, you don't get that choice to go from 3 to 1 and then know that, okay, now that's right. I'm pretty well dialed in. I got the 1 point because it was gate 3, not because it's the kit, because you go from 3 to 4 and now back to 3 again.
Yeah.
And you don't know if should we play around with the kit, or we just leave it as is and wait and hope for the best from gate 1 and 2, because by then it could be finished.
That's right. And you know, like you said there too, you becoming psychological too. So you know that if you got that draw position where you have gate number 3, gate number 4, gate number 3, the odds are against you.
Yeah.
From that point. So I used I used to, and I should say I still do. I take that as a challenge, right? So
Okay.
the odds are against me. So this is a challenge. This is a test.
Sure.
And I'm all about hey, that's the test of all tests. I'm in. So
that's it. You're going to make it happen.
I got to make it happen.
I'm going to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to prove everyone. I'm going to prove
Sure.
the system wrong.
Sure.
And probably there's probably a 50-50 chance that it works.
Sure.
But
your attitude towards that situation, which is against you, makes you the person and the rider you are today. That's why you have as many world titles as you do. Whereas other riders have a situation like that, because everyone can draw that number. That's a given. And sometimes they're already, oh my God, here we go again. Yeah. And he's already coming up to the parade or whatever, the presentation. He's already bummed out.
He's done. Yeah.
That's it. Or even worse, because you draw on the Friday on the practice. So he's got all of Friday and all the night. He's already psychologically killing himself. And that's killing himself, which is making it that much harder for his team, for the rider, for everything to get it set him up. Because even if they set him up perfectly, he's already going to the tapes. Oh my God, I got 3-4-3. Oh geez.
I'm done.
That's it.
This is gonna be rough.
That's it.
And going back to the beginning of our conversation, we were talking about Eric Gunderson. That was one of the first things I picked up from him in my early career. That attitude and the approach to a track, to a gate position, to a heat.
That's it.
Makes all the difference.
That's it. That's it.
You know, we've all got our little things, and everybody's got their own way of like trying to test themselves or challenge themselves in that sense. And some guys, look, they got to know what riders they're against, what heat, what gate position, whatever. And on the other way, it's like, I don't care who's in the heat. I don't care what position I'm in. All I know is every heat's going to be freaking hard. And I got to have my A game wherever I go. And it's another test.
That's it. Here's another, we're talking about psychology. Tomasz was always so much psychologically dialed in. He was the kind of rider that the harder the situation, the better for him. And I'll give you an example. We've had situations where he's on, let's say, 8 points. He's got his last ride. And Tomasz, we need 1 point to make the semis. And you're going against 3 other riders, and they have 2, 3, and 1 point. So in all fairness, not to be disrespectful, but riders who have had a hard night. Mm-hmm. You know what position he'll take? He'll take 4th place. He won't win that one. But then he was always like that. But if I put him to a situation where, Tomasz, we got to win this one, but there's a problem. It's Greg, it's Tony, and it's Hans, and they're all on, 12 points. They haven't dropped a point yet. Trust me, I'm going to win it. And he goes out and smokes them. I mean, and one more thing, Tomasz, you're from gate 3. Yeah. They've got 12 points. You got 8. They haven't lost a point yet. They're on fire, all 3 of them. You got to win it. You can't even come second. You got to win it. Boom, done.
Gate 3 is
the harder the situation, the better it was for him. Always as a rider, we had a situation where in Sweden, in the Swedish league, you do home and away, and sometimes if it's tied home and away, you have a runoff for the bonus point. You know what this is like, right? And we had a runoff against. Oh God, I can't remember where Peter Carlson was racing in that time. Wherever, I can't remember the team. But anyway, it's a runoff, and PK's like on 16. He's dropped a point or 2, and we're in Västervik. PK's on fire, and we got to put up a rider each. So they put up PK, we put up Tomasz, or the team puts up Tomasz, and they say we got to win it for the bonus point. And Tomasz wasn't having the best of nights. But it's a situation, it's a do or die one. And before Tomasz goes out, he says, go up to the manager, Tomasz, he tells me this, and tell him we already got the bonus point. I said, Tomasz, don't fuck around. I mean, this is serious. We need the bonus point to make the playoffs or whatever. So tell him the bonus point we got it. Of course, he goes out, he beats PK.
You
got to be pretty confident to say something like that before heat.
Yeah, before the heat. And you're looking at him going, right. Okay. I'll just go pass that.
Yeah, that's why I'm just gonna go tell him that right now. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Just the delivery guy here. I'm just the message man.
That's it. Don't kill the messenger.
That's right. Exactly.
That's it.
Thomas is like watching him in Grand Prix practices and stuff too. It was nearly pointless to pay attention to Thomas in Grand Prix practice because he went out there and never once really gassed it.
No.
He went out there and just was feeling, playing, testing, looking, trying to do this and that. And then he would just pack up and just call it a day. Maybe not do his last round sometimes or
Yeah.
I mean, you watch him do a practice start and you think, okay, he looks terrible.
Mhm.
He's not gonna be quick. And then he comes out the next day and just makes everybody look like
That's it.
dog do, right?
Oh,
And so you can never that part of it. I always watch him like, man, there's something about this guy that's you have to watch him because
Mhm.
he's doing something there and he's looking for something. And all you can try to do is take a piece out of what he's doing and try to use it for yourself. And the best one is I train some of the kids nowadays today, and I use Thomas as a prime example. I'm like, I've said this to you too, like,
Yeah.
there is no better rider in the world than Tomasz Gollob, in my own opinion. The guy is the most natural. He is the most, he's like poetry on a motorcycle. He dances on the bike. He's rides with his fingertips. And I don't know that I've ever seen him once ride with his hands on the grips.
No.
You know, like really like this. He just rides everything, and it's so calculated. No matter how the track conditions are, no matter what he does, everything he goes like an enduro rider in the forest. He just bounces from point to point, bang, 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 and he just goes, right? And when you watch him practice, when he's on I saw him in Bydgoszcz once in a practice when he was really doing something that I tell all the kids today, like Tomasz Gollob, he does this, and he rides around the fence at a very slow speed, and he kind of puts the bike right up against the edge of the fence, and he'll go around there and he'll go as fast as he can, you know. And then at some point you can't ride on the fence full gas. You have to turn to make the corner. And you have to understand it and see it and try it together to understand how it works. But the feeling that guy has for the motorcycle, a Speedway bike, which is not like your average motorcycle, it's like a piece of spaghetti, the thing rides like this. And here's this guy putting the bike, trying to make that piece of spaghetti put it in its full sprung position, and just doing that with the throttle, playing with it, and just not at the one point where he has to like roll it off a little bit to bring the spring out of it, and then whack, and then he freaking just goes. That's how I look at Tomasz Gollob, and I think there's not many people in the world, if there is any, that can do it like that.
Sure.
So
I always look at the three guys who ride the gas like the way they did. It was Hans, which is Thomas's, by the way, idol, and Tomasz always try to do as many things as Hans. He was even if you watch some of the old the 90s Grand Prix and they're in a heat together, it looks like a mirror copy. The way when they dump the clutch, the way they put their legs, everything, it's like they're twins.
Right.
Watch some of the old YouTube the heats where Thomas and Hans are in the heat together. Unbelievable. And so Tomasz he learned a lot from Hans. And the other rider I always admire with throttle control was Lee.
Right.
He was always I call him like a guitar player because he was up there playing his guitar. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Like textbook Speedway, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're looking for the grip. They weren't looking for the spin. They wanted the bike to hook up and just get that enough pull just to keep pulling forward.
Doing the same thing in two different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they sat on the bike, and it's just they kept and you're right about Hans too, because he was a throttle happy guy. He could keep it nailed the way he set his equipment up, and he kept the bike sprung in such a manner. So if it unsprung in the wrong point, you're in trouble. So you got to keep it so it's follows the track and follows.
But in all fairness, both of those riders very rarely allowed the bike to be find themselves in a situation where they had a problem.
Yeah,
they had it nailed in. I guess maybe I watch some of the young kids sometimes, and I like I said, I never rode Speedway myself, but watching it so many years and going through the ranks and stuff like that, I feel like I got some knowledge. But what I'm talking about is the problems I see with the young kids is them coming out of the corners, picking their legs up. And I said sometimes that's where they're losing. Sometimes when they have a problem, it's too late, and that's where they lose a lot. Because by the time they get their leg back down on the footrest, and they lock up or they fix it or whatever, instead of gaining speed and getting momentum, they've lost it. It'll work, but it's a 50-50. Sometimes you can balance and you take your leg off because they're balancing. I can understand that. But if you come to a situation where you have a problem, having that leg already on the footrest helps you out, but you can get out of the problem quicker.
Yeah, that's your stability. That's your backbone on the bike.
That's it.
And how many accidents have we seen happen because of
Ooh.
that?
Ooh.
I've been on the receiving end of one or two of those, and
Exactly.
you know, and it's you just we all take our foot off the peg at some point sometimes, and but some of the other guys do it in such an odd position where you need your foot on the peg to keep the stability of the bike, to keep it sprung, to keep it working. And we talk about all day long. It's a lot of the guys refer to it as modern day Speedway, and we refer to it as, okay, I'm old school, but actually think about a Speedway bike, that big foot peg there that's on the right side of the bike, there for a main, it's a reason.
That's it. Yeah. And we can go back and forth if Speedways change or not. I remember that many times we were in Voyens for the Grand Prix there, and there's a town next to Voyens, Houderslev, and there's a Hotel Norden. Anyone who's been in Voyens and has been in Houderslev has seen the Hotel Norden. It's a little, very small hotel, and in the lobby of the reception there is Ole Olsen's motorcycle. It's all gold plated. It's one of his motorcycles he won the world title on. His sponsor gold plated, and it's a museum piece, I guess you could say, and it's in the reception. And many a time, the waiting game. Saturday morning, you wake up, you have your breakfast, and then it's a waiting game till the meeting starts at whatever. Usually, the mechanics go earlier because they got to do the scrutineering and stuff like that. But sometimes I would stay with Tomek because we have more time, et cetera, et cetera. And after breakfast, I got my cup of coffee, and I'm sitting in the reception, just killing time. And you're looking at this bike, and you walk around it once, twice, 30 times, or whatever. And it's a 1971. I think it's his first world title that he won, or whatever. I'm looking at this bike, and we're at today's times, and I got the most modern bikes because we're in the Grand Prix, and everyone's got these. All this technology, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm looking, I'm talking to myself, and said, listen, this is nothing's changed. Little things, technology-wise. Of course, we can go through the engine, titanium, etc., 2-valve, 4-valve. But besides that, the bike itself as a chassis, the only big change is it's 6 springs into the clutch instead of 3.
Right.
The seat's gotten shorter. Okay, fair enough. But in general, it's a sprocket, it's 2 chains, it's a gas tank, it's the handlebars that changed a little, but little thing. But technology-wise, the bike, not the engine. No. It's a 3 springs in the clutch,
and the amount of times that we've all tried to make the Speedway bike better, you end up coming right back to what?
Right back.
Yeah.
Andreas was, I think, the best one of those. He always had some Mickey Mouse ideas.
Yeah.
I've seen him put a motocross wheel on the front.
Yeah.
And he went from that idea really quick.
Yeah.
He thought, okay, it's a wider one, it'll give you more grip. It doesn't work like that.
No, it's so funny. I haven't tried that one, but we've tried with motocross style forks, really trimmed down and everything. They're so nice to ride with, but you can't get full lock, and it just doesn't work. It's chassis wise. We've done everything to make the chassis designed off from the engineer's perspective, and you go no. So then you have to back up and then make a few adjustments just to help your style,
Exactly.
It worked out.
Exactly.
But then I have a good question.
Okay.
Hit us.
If the exhauster is a problem when you're starting, why don't you just move it up?
Well, we've already got it moved up so high.
But on a motorbike, on a cross bike, you have it right under the.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean move it way up there?
We have what they call FIM regulations. So we have at this point we have like the pipe has to go to in a certain angle. It has to be a certain length. So you have to make sure that it goes all this way and that way. And the exhaust pipe, the silencer at the back has to be pointing in a specific direction at a certain height. So it can't be pointing down, it can't be pointing up. It's got, so we have all these
regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's a point. And these days we all ask them, because a lot of Speedway tracks too, Thomas, right? They haven't changed much over the years either. You're seeing these days, fortunately, like Torin and Bydgoszcz was always great. You can never complain about that. But a lot of tracks seem to be now trying to make wider tracks because the bikes are getting quicker, of course, but the tracks are not changing. So we're getting too fast for the tracks. The bikes are getting better than the tracks are allowed to what they can handle, in my opinion. But then, they're making some of the indoor tracks, even like Melbourne was great. Whichever one now. The Warsaw one there, and they're also quite wide. So they're making those tracks better, right? and they're making them a little bit harder surfaces so that we're not able to dig down too much. So we shouldn't have these issues. But those are common problems for us, you know, and yeah, they're not easy solutions, but good question.
Yeah, I mean,
well, there's a few items I think we could discuss, but hopefully we won't go that direction regarding the FIM and some of the rules and regulations there. That's another podcast time for you.
Yeah. And another can of worms.
The trick question is, who are you going to invite for that one?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that one will have to be around the table.
I think so. That's right. That's right.
You put the microphone right there so it gets everybody's voice, and then you just
exactly.
kind of turn it loose and throw the question out there and see what comes back.
That's it. That's a free for all.
For sure. Well, hey, Thomas, we really, really appreciate you giving us all this time, and of course, you know, it's always fun to get to know you in ways that we haven't had a chance to get to know you. You know, and for a lot of people out there, and the ones we talk to and deal with, you know, they don't know who you are in that way. And this is fun. I know you in one manner, and it's really, really cool to hear your story and how you became the guy you are today, coming from the States, and the dude, as Sam always referred to as, he knows our lingo, man. He can say dude and bro.
So Sam always said that before?
Sam always told me that, dude, Thomas is cool. He can speak our lingo.
That's it. That's cool. That's cool. Here's another Sam one. Sam, back in the time before we finish really quick, the foreigners are always sort of afraid to eat. I mean, now everyone enjoys Polish food and it's nice and everything, but back in the day, people were a little afraid to eat it. So Sam would always come over to our house, and his food before a meeting would be a piece of toast, a banana, and covered with honey. And that was it was always his favorite snack before a meeting.
He was safe.
That's it. He was safe. Henka, for example, wouldn't eat any Polish food. He was scared. The only thing he'd get in the taxi. He'd have a map of all the McDonald's in Poland. He'd drive. If he had to be a 12-hour drive, we're driving 12 hours. I got to get a Big Mac. That's it. I'm not eating any Polish food.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
That's it. But we're talking early 90s, so like I said, different times.
Yeah, for sure. And if you would just venture out and try it, you might have realized actually everything was great.
That's it. That's definitely healthier than McD's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without a doubt, right? Kelly
Rand
Rand always used to carry around a bottle of Tabasco with him, so whatever he had, he just covered it with Tabasco and then he just ate it.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a good story too.
Always had Tabasco with him, so when he traveled in the eastern countries, he would just douse everything with Tabasco and he wouldn't taste it.
Okay, that's a good one.
Pretty cool.
That's a cool story as well.
Well, dude, again, we thank you, and please give send our best wishes in regards to the man himself.
Will do.
He's you know, we love that guy and we miss him, and everybody wants to see him around the tracks again at some point. So we hope that day is going to come sooner than later.
Okay, will do. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and maybe I can come over some time again to do your podcast. Absolutely, or we'll join you there wherever. It'd be a pleasure to have you around the room, and then we'll open those cans of worms. That's it. There you go. There you go. All right. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. You got it, buddy. Thanks again. All the best to all of you guys. Thanks. You too. Bye-bye. Peace. Bye. Welcome to Real 45 with Stefan and Greg Hancock. We vibe out and have real talk, so tune in and check this out. Yeah, today is a new day. Let's seize it now and get hyped. We talking about our careers, our family, and just life. Yeah, share my story with you. Inspiration like every day. Real 45, we gon' keep it live. I keep episodes on replay. Hey, Real 45. Yeah, Real 45. Show them how we do it, man. Yeah.